Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am the one and only infamous Kentucky Yankee without a doubt. Last week, we worked on a Ford Ranger. I got the wiring in order and got the engine started on it. So this week, we need to propel this Ford Ranger forward. And the way we're going to do that is to work on a transmission. This, by the way, is our beautiful Ranger. It's a 1985 body on a 2002 chassis. The engine's out of a 2002. The transmission also will be out of a 2002. And someday, we hope to get a turbocharger on this thing. So many different things are evolving and changing on this build. This is my original power plant right here. It's out of like a 2000, I think, 11 Ford Fusion. It's a 2.5. This transmission is out of a 2000, I think, 9 Mazda Miata, and it's a 6-speed. This transmission is in good shape and ready to go, but the issue with it is that the shifter is all the way in the back of the transmission. So to make it work, I'd have to make some linkage from here to here and put the pivot point up here. Although it wouldn't be terribly difficult to do, it's not worth doing. The reason why is because the first gear ratio and the fifth and sixth gear ratio are basically the same on both transmissions. The only thing I'd be gaining is another gear in between those, in between all those gears. So instead of using the 6-speed and making all that linkage for a very little different gear ratio, I'm just going to use this 5-speed that came with this truck, and I think it needs some work. We got a little mud packed in here where the shifter goes. I'm thinking there's a bearing out in this transmission. I think maybe that's why they junked this truck, but I'm not sure. We'll get it tore apart and figure it out. When I first started building this truck, I was doing a lot of crazy stuff, getting that engine out of that Fusion, getting a transmission for a Miata. It's because I did not have that newer model Ford Ranger, the 2002. I have a whole series of videos of fails, different things I tried until I got to this point when I bought that truck. I can tell you since I bought the truck, everything's just kind of going together a lot easier. So you can transfer, I think it's 2002 until a 2009 Ford Ranger. All this stuff transferring over pretty easy into this 1985 body using the 2002 chassis. Had I known this before, I'd have saved a lot of money and time. Shift fork assembly, little plastic piece. This bolt holds this shift fork rod, if you can see it up there. Not the correct way to do this, but I don't have the right tool. I'm going to knock this gear up from the bottom using this aluminum punch. I've never had all the correct tools I've needed to do any job, it seems like. synchronizer looks like brand new. Have it all mostly tore apart. I'm gonna start inspecting things, checking things out, see if I can find any bad bearings. I'm starting to become a little bit worried that really there's nothing wrong. Maybe the bearings were just dry. I'm not sure. If I find something, I'll let you know. All these parts are gonna have to be cleaned up because it's still dirty. There was dirt in there, so I'm glad to do that. But the parts look really good. Gears look good, synchronizers. I'll check it all out and get back with you. When I bought this truck, they had the transmission out of it. I assumed there was something wrong other than the clutch and throw-out bearing and stuff like that, because why wouldn't they just put it back together? All I knew is the bearings were noisy and there was dirt in it, and so I disassembled it. Because I do have it apart, I'll show you what I'm looking for. These are the synchronizers, and you look for a sharp edge right there. They'll come to kind of a sharp point right here. They're like a triangle. You don't want these to be rounded off. Needle bearings. Look at them, see if you see any pitting, anything wrong with them. Spin them, see how they feel. Roller bearings, you can spin them, check them all individually. Each one of these you can check the rollers. But to check the race inside, you can hold them all together like that and spin it, and it'll feel rough if the race is inside is bad. Obviously look at this race also, make sure there's no damage to that. And there's our problem right there. In for a closer look. That bearing right there is bad on that gear. How bad is it? I don't know yet. I gotta get it apart here and look at it. She's scarred up here pretty good on the shaft. That's not a good thing. So the correct way to fix this would be to replace this shaft, this needle bearing, and this gear. I think this is third gear. That could be quite expensive, so the way I would do it, if I was going to do it, is I would hone this out, I would polish this up, clean it up the best I could, and throw a needle bearing in there. And if I choose to repair it that way, I'm most likely going to have issues. There's either going to be noise or a vibration or a groan or something like that. In transmissions, it's hard to get away with a crappy repair like that. Another thing I noticed is that the tail shaft bushing is MIA, and the seal was tore completely out. So this is what the seal looked like, no rubber left on it at all. My conclusion on what happened to this transmission, the tail shaft seal went out, maybe the tail shaft bushing, I don't know what happened to that. Oil got out of the transmission, and that bearing, the needle bearing on third gear was starved for oil, and she locked up. So here I am again on this side of the shop looking at this 6-speed transmission, wondering if I'm wanting to put about $100 in that other transmission to get it halfway repaired, or work on some linkage for this one and throw it in there. In the beginning of this video, I told you that there wasn't much of an advantage of putting the 6-speed in over the 5-speed, and that's true. But I do want to talk about what the advantage would be, and that is it'll always keep the engine at a higher RPM. So with the turbo on there, the engine would always be revved up a little bit more, keeping that turbo spooling more. You know, all these thoughts are going through my head now because of the damage on this transmission, and I'm trying to make a decision on whether or not to repair it or go with that 6-speed. I'm going to be honest with you guys, I just feel like playing with the linkage. I want to see if I can make that linkage work. You know, to relocate the shifter and put it in the truck and just see how it does. That's really what the deal is here at this point. And I guarantee you I'm probably just going to open another can of worms, and we'll find out what that is if I decide to do it. But I'm leaning that way. Best thing to do, safest thing to do would be just repair this transmission. Not only that, repair it right. Buy the shaft, buy the gear, buy the bearings, throw it all back together, and you got a really good transmission. But I don't work that way. I had really hoped I was going to get this transmission put back together and get it in the truck, but it didn't work out. Now I need to order parts or work on a linkage on that other transmission. I can't really decide what to do. I'll take a day or two to think about it and then go from there. As always, thanks for watching. Leave your comments below on what you think I should do. I'll probably already have made my decision, but still, your input's always helpful. We'll see you next time.